I didn't mean to crash on Verax 9. Honestly, I just wanted to test the new hyperdrive module on my ship, the Erebus, and maybe make a quick delivery to the mining colony on Sector 42. Simple, right? But then the hyperdrive hiccuped, a flash. If blue light erupted in the cockpit, and the next thing I knew, I was careening through an atmosphere that was nowhere near my intended destination. The landing was less than graceful. My ship slammed into a ridge of iridescent rock that shimmered under the twin suns, tearing a chunk out of the fuselage and sending sparks flying. I survived, though, which I considered a minor miracle. But when I stepped outside to assess the damage, I realized something much worse than a broken ship. I was not alone. They watched me from the forest-like canyon. At first, I thought they were humanoid. Then the sunlight hit them, and I froze. They were beautiful. Impossibly so. Not like any human beauty I'd ever seen. These creatures were tall, lithe, with skin that glimmered faintly in the light, ranging from jade green to deep indigo. Their hair floated almost as if in water, moving independently, and their eyes burned with intelligence and an almost predatory curiosity. I tried to communicate, waving my hands. They didn't respond. Instead, a ripple of laughter echoed through the canyon, melodic and haunting, and then they vanished. Walked away. They disappeared, melting into the alien foliage like shadows. I spent the first night trying to fix my ship. Nothing worked. Every tool I pulled from the wreckage seemed to malfunction. By dawn, I realized something. I wasn't going anywhere soon. And the tribe had returned. They didn't attack, at least, not at first. They circled me, keeping just out of reach, eyes scanning, studying. I was like a specimen under a microscope, and I hated it. But then something remarkable happened. One of them approached, the smallest of the group. She had silver-blue skin, and her gaze was direct, fearless. Froze as she reached out a hand. I should have pulled back, but something in her eyes stopped me. Instead, I held out my own hand, and for a moment, we just touched. The moment felt eternal. Then she turned and ran, motioning for me to follow. It took me hours to understand that following them was not optional. They didn't speak in words, not in any language I could understand. Their communication was a blend of gestures, expressions, and musical sounds. Gradually, I learned their patterns. They led me to a hidden valley, a paradise of cascading waterfalls, towering alien flora, and crystal-clear pools that glowed softly in the darkness. This was their home, and I was now part of it. The first few weeks were hell. I had no idea how to survive. The tribe didn't hand-feed me or make me comfortable. They expected me to earn my place. Hunting alien creatures with clawed whip-like tails? Check. Learning which plants were edible or deadly? Check. Avoiding territorial predators? Check. And the tribe always watched, always judging, always laughing at my failures. But slowly, I adapted. My human stubbornness and survival instincts kept me alive, and I started to understand their ways. The tribe valued strength, wit, and adaptability. Physical skill was important, yes, but so was creativity. I built crude traps, learned to mimic their movements, and even began to understand the rhythms of their music-like language. Then came the initiation. On the night of the twin moon's eclipse, I was taken to the central cavern, a massive, open space lit by luminescent crystals. All members of the tribe gathered, their eyes glowing in the dark. I was presented with a choice: participate in the trial of shadows or leave. And if I left, I would never see them again. I chose the trial. It was brutal. The trial of shadows tested more than physical ability. We had to navigate a labyrinth, filled with illusions, predators, and traps, all while solving puzzles that seemed impossible to a human mind. Every misstep was punished, every success noted. But I endured, clinging to a raw human determination they admired, or perhaps simply found amusing. By the end, I was not the same man who had crash-landed on Verax 9. I had learned their language, their movements, their ways. I had earned their respect. They didn't speak words, but the subtle tilt of a head, the extension of a hand, the quiet acceptance of my presence. It meant more than anything they could have said. The next year passed. In a blur of survival and adaptation, I learned to hunt, swim in the glowing pools, climb the massive flora towers, and even fight when necessary. The tribe taught me in their own way, often by example, sometimes by trial and error. And then there was the unexpected. The tribe, wild as they were not devoid of affection. Over time, I formed bonds with some of the females, not sexual at first, not in the way humans think, but bonds of trust, companionship, and shared survival. One, the silver-blue-skinned one who had first approached me, became my closest companion. I never learned her name in words. It didn't exist in our shared language. But I called her Lyra in my mind, for the song of her laugh that lingered, like wind in crystal caves. Lyra taught me things no human could ever know. How to read the subtle changes in the wind, to predict storms. How to understand the silent warnings of the forest. How to move like a shadow, invisible and untouchable. And slowly, the fear that had gripped me the first night faded, replaced by a strange comfort. By the end of the second year, I wasn't just surviving, I was living. The tribe had accepted me fully. I had become a part of their rhythm, their hunts, their songs. And in the quiet moments, when we watched the twin moons rise over the crystalline valley, Lyra and I would sit together in silence, the kind of silence that doesn't need words to be understood. Then the memory of my human life would flash across my mind, flashes of Earth, my old crew, my ship, my plans. And a part of me ached to leave, to return to human civilization. But each time I looked at the tribe, at Lyra, I realized something. This world, wild and alien, had given me a life I had never imagined. A life of raw beauty, danger, and freedom. A life where every day was earned and every bond was real. I tried to fix the Erebus again, just to see if it was possible. I worked for days, scavenging alien materials, modifying the ship's damaged systems with my new knowledge of the planet's resources. But the truth was clear. Leaving was no longer an option. The ship could wait. My life had found a new orbit. Around Lyra, around the tribe, around a planet that felt alive in ways Earth never had. Sometimes the tribe would tease me. They'd mimic human gestures, make exaggerated expressions that made me laugh despite myself. They were wild, beautiful, unpredictable, but also strangely familiar. I had become one of them in every way that mattered. And the thought of returning to a world of rigid rules and metal cities felt alien and oppressive. The final lesson came unexpectedly. A human ship appeared one night, sleek and silver, glinting under the twin moons. I froze. The instinct to leave, to return, surged through me. But when I looked at the tribe, at Lyra waiting in the shadows, I realized that my place was here. I waved the ship off, silently, and they understood. No words were needed. I had survived 2 years with a wild tribe of alien beauties, not just as a human, but as something more. Something capable of living in harmony with a species that could have destroyed me at any moment. And as the ship disappeared, over the horizon, I felt a deep, unshakable peace. I was home. In the jungle-lit valley of Verax 9, with its crystalline rivers, alien flora, and a tribe that had become family, I found the truth. Survival wasn't enough. Life had to be earned, lived shared, and in this wild, impossible world, I had found not just survival, but love, acceptance, and freedom beyond anything Earth could offer. And as I sat beside Lyra, watching the twin moons rise again, I knew I would never leave. Not for any ship, not for any human world. Here, in the heart of the wild, I had finally learned what it truly meant to live.